Hi, I'm Jeffry Jeanetta-Wark. Best practices in outpatient mental health care can be very effective in helping clients heal and grow. Additionally, there's an amazing collection of very effective, efficient, and creative approaches in the holistic or integrative psychotherapy realm, which can also help clients heal and grow. The integrative approach to psychotherapy allows for the oldest of wisdom to meet the most advanced technical skill sets available. For many years, I've been supremely interested in practicing these integrative approaches. In using them, I find that clinical work is often more fluid, more rapid, and that such approaches allow for therapists as artists to effectively play a certain therapeutic jazz fusion during sessions. In this DVD, you will learn about my favorite best practices and methods for using integrative psychotherapy to help clients replace unconscious negative core beliefs. For you, the clinical practitioner viewer, this DVD content can provide reinforcement of what you are already creatively doing, and maybe it will evoke new ideas that can help you better serve clients. Providing psychotherapy and education for almost a quarter century, I've dedicated my professional life to helping clients and to those who work with them to remove blockages in living authentically, courageously, and powerfully in the realms of the mind, body, spirit, and emotions. As a presenter and as a psychotherapist, I'm here to provide inspiration, practical, powerful information, and sustainable transformation for those who are ready to receive it. I'm thrilled, I'm humbled, I'm very excited to share this DVD with you. Namaste. Here we're starting to talk about merging of techniques, which seems to be a hallmark in integrative psychotherapy, which makes sense. Integrating different either philosophies, approaches, techniques, strategies. And I'm sure we all do that naturally on our own. It's kind of the eclectic form of psychotherapy. I will show you later some texts. And I've looked through 14 books just on IP in terms of table of contents and reviews. And I can tell you that the range of applications of IP are incredibly diverse. What I distilled for myself is the next definition because it has to do with what I'm passionate about and what works for me. And so, for me, integrative psychotherapy has to do with a variety of energy-based perspectives in application to legitimate mental health care. So my version of IP has to do with the energy inside of us, the energy around us, as well as different ways of touching it, moving it, dealing with it from a mental health perspective. Which may sound radical, but given what I'm learning about integrative psychotherapy, it fits perfectly. So that's kind of my orientation to IP. Questions about that? Concerns or additions? Something I'm missing? What are the advantages of doing IP? Why do IP? I'm stretching some things here, but I'll support with a little bit of literature in a little bit. If you have a panic attack, and you've had that for, well, I had a client that had panic attacks for 27 years, and she came, and in 40 minutes we completely resolved that because we went to the core issue, which was the base issue related to what became a panic attack. Panic attack is simply advanced anxiety. So we resolved that in 40 minutes, and she came back one more time, having had 2 weeks later no panic attacks, and then we did a separate issue, and we used EMDR. And what I started being aware of is, for issues like panic attacks, you can resolve the issues very, very quickly if you know what you're doing with lots of different things like energy psychology. So it's not, I mean, that's relatively quick. So we can say for certain types of issues, IP is very, very fast. We could have a workshop just on that. And that would be really interesting maybe in the future. There is some hinting at cost effectiveness if you're thinking about turnaround time of resolution of the issues. So yeah, I haven't had problems from the insurance company, although I don't necessarily tell them that I'm doing certain types of integrative psychotherapy. But with the resolution of the issues, they're spending less time in therapy. So if the conscious mind says, I want to find a partner who will do blah, 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 but the unconscious core belief is I'm unlovable, there's conflict. And what we have to do is help the person with that. So I believe that a great way to get into the unconscious core belief is through an altered state of consciousness, because if the ego is held at bay and material from the unconscious comes to consciousness, we see it. If we don't see it, it stays hidden. We can't change it. So if the ego is part of the issue, we have to find a way to suspend ego work at that moment and bring out unconscious material. How do we do that? Altered states of consciousness are a great way to do it. It could be breath work. It could be a variety of things, and I'll give you examples. But theoretically, if I can't bring the unconscious material out, I can't do anything with it to transform the negative core belief. Does that make sense? Okay. So this gets at how I'm theoretically looking at dealing with the unconscious core belief. So the more we can learn to master those creative, alternative, right hemispheric applications, trance states, the better it will be for us to help our clients with the unconscious core beliefs. So these are types of things which are beautiful in helping us get to the unconscious core beliefs, because they rely mostly on right hemisphere, deeper structures, rhythm, body stuff. Take a look at Stephen Levine's work, Bessel van der Kolk's work, movement. It's in the body, it's not in upper cerebral cortex. Make sense? Raise your hand if you know of Jill Bolte-Taylor's work. Nice. So, a neuroanatomist from Harvard has a stroke in the left hemisphere of her brain. And she's going, I'm having a stroke. And she knows exactly what's happening. And all of a sudden, the right hemisphere gets all of the energy of her psyche, and the left shuts down. And she describes what happens. And it is a spiritual epiphany. Watch her on the TED Talk. It brought tears to my eyes. It was beautiful. And so she's saying, I understand why all the literature and the writers of the spiritual traditions say what they say, and how unified we are spiritually and connected to everything. Without the analysis of the left hemisphere, she's totally in the right. Okay, and the entire unconscious world, from my opinion, lives mostly in the right hemisphere. So let's take advantage of how to get into that space and leverage it for the sake of healing. What a golden opportunity. And we as therapists, if we're not doing that, I think we're missing an opportunity. I believe that perception does govern reality. My perception influences the story that I have about my reality, which concretizes my reality on a deeper level and becomes that which I project into the world. And if we can help clients see that type of patterning, then we can say, we have some choices, and our negative core beliefs will definitely influence the types of ways that we allow ourselves to make those choices. And when we start to have a meta-awareness about what we're doing, we have a little more choice. Where we have choice, we have power. Otherwise, it's coming out of the unconscious, it happens, it's a one-way ticket, and we don't necessarily have a lot of power. It's that epiphany, and there's compassion for the part of us that we project our negatives onto. For example, if we have a regressed inner child who's 8, did a bunch of bad things, and he is or she is the cause of so much of our challenge in the world,
we lump all of our negativity onto that part until we see that part in a different way. And then we find the core beliefs and we deal with those. And then part of the epiphany is, oh my gosh, I've been treating this part of me so negatively. And to reclaim that part, to reclaim the regressed, split off, false self part into the adult that we are in the psyche and bring a mature, united, resolved sense of who we are is great therapy. Otherwise, that part is split off. It acts out. It's part of our addictive process. It runs the show when we regress. And if we don't unify with adult, mature self consciously, then it remains back here doing all these things that we're not aware of. And good therapy, in my opinion, pulls it to consciousness, makes friends with it, unifies with it, and we have a whole in ourselves.
Here we are, professionals keeping our professional hats on, and you're asking us to go back and talk about childhood memories or long-held beliefs and so forth. I don't want to do that here. I just thought I'd say
Okay.
I did it anyway, but yeah.
Thank you. You stepped outside your comfort zone as the turtle, so thank you.
Well, and I like to think I'm smart and capable here in this group.
Yes.
And so asking us to drop our defenses and do this, I'd rather do it on my clients. Thank you.
No. No. Thank you. I appreciate your vulnerability. And I will tell you that, again, with vulnerability, I've had more therapists in my life than I have fingers. And they've all been great. And I've learned a lot. And I will not do techniques that I'm not experientially trained in. So the more you do with this type of thing, if you choose to use it with clients, it will feel viscerally so much richer. You can't take a client where you've not been. You can't take them deeper if you've been there. It kind of goes like this. First of all, raise your hand if you do EMDR work with clients. Or if you've experienced it at all for yourself. So in EMDR, thank you, as in other forms of really good energy psychology techniques, we have the belief held in the hippocampus. We have the emotion connected to it in the emotional center. And the EMDR disconnects and it becomes calm again. We take the memory and say, well, what do you believe about yourself in that memory? Because where we have painful memory, we have pain, and we have belief about ourselves, which is the core belief essentially. So it's all related to similar work. So that's what I'm intending. Mark.
Well, we would all have our own way of talking about the work we do, but it would be something along the lines of helping our client peel back layers. And this exercise made it so palpable and powerful for me.
Really?
And Maureen and I talked about, the initial feeling of, oh God, we have to do this, and what am I ever going to come up with? And it was ultimately quite powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will not try and take you any place that I don't think is in your highest benefit.
Another part of this that I thought was interesting, although our situations were different and the problems that we were dealing with were different, our reactions were so alike. It was like, it was very interesting.
Cool.
We were separated at birth.
I'm so glad you found yourselves here today.
But I can see with a client how that would, not that you probably never would share your life experience, but this having someone else experience similar feelings that you have and being able to convey that to your client that this is normal behavior.
Yes. How validating.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. There's lots of theories about addictive behaviors and what drives them. One thing I found is that there's a strong tendency when we have an addictive behavior to have a shame and guilt response. And that shame and guilt, which you, I think, spoke of so well, comes into the negative core belief. So through my acting out behavior, I will trigger my shame and my guilt, which will play into the core belief, which now is becoming my reality once again. And it's a cyclical conundrum of that process, which, without stopping, people keep on doing what they've been doing, and behavior continues. So how do we pull it apart? Take a look at the pieces. And I think the negative core belief work and the IP work is a beautiful way to do it. And if you have worked with men who, or women who are into use of porn, one thing that I find is this the one that I have? Yeah, I view porn when I feel lonely. That way I forget about all these unmet needs that I don't even want to talk about. And I don't have them because they're in that part of me that I don't want to deal with. So a lot of this work has to do with the needs that we have developmentally, which have not been met, which we still want met. And the beliefs about ourselves. Didn't get the love and attention that I needed, therefore I must be really bad. I'm acting out behavior, and I get to go back to seeing how bad I am. Funny how that works. So the developmental needs that we have are part of what drives us to try and get our needs met, but also it's connected to our negative core beliefs. I hope that's articulated well. I don't have a lot in this presentation to say about that, but I want to plant that seed. We do what we do because our unmet needs are driving us to try and get them met. In part. Make sense? Okay.
So, Carrie, do you have a sense of what your techniques are to calm yourself if you need when you activate? I do. Okay. And we don't need to know what they are, but I want to make sure you're conscious of them.
Okay.
And you have an adult mature self that you've written about, so you're pretty clear on what it is. And if you need to have access to it and kind of go, oh yeah, that's what I wrote, that's fine too.
Okay.
Since it's new, not totally in memory perhaps, it might be. So would you be willing to approach the negative core belief and possibly a regressed part of you who holds that negative core belief?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to coach you into that process, and there's going to be a bit of dialogue and nurturance, I would suggest, if you wish, between the mature adult self and that regressed part. Any questions you have before we do that?
No.
Okay.
Go for it. I have sacrificed myself to you.
Well, more than multiply.
Yeah.
At any time, if you need, you can open your eyes or just put up your hand, and that will tell me that we need to stop or check in.
Okay.
So, when you're ready, I want you to just take a couple of deep breaths, close your eyes, if that feels comfortable to you. Get your body relaxed. And when you're ready, just let me know, and then I'll coach you to the next part. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to consider bringing yourself to a very comfortable place. If you choose to be in your safe place or your place of ease and comfort, wherever that is, great. When you get there, just nod your head. That will tell me that you are there. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to imagine yourself at some age, anytime in your life, that is connected to the negative core belief that you feel is really the one for this exercise. So think about both the negative core belief as well as some age that you were or have been that fits with that negative core belief. And then, okay, you're there. That's very good.
Keep my eyes shut.
Keep your eyes shut. Unless you're really uncomfortable with that.
No, I love it.
You love it. It's great. So while you're in that place and you're with that child, I'm going to ask you to invite in your mature adult self and allow that part of you to have an image of yourself as well. So as an adult, what does she look like, that adult mature self? So bring her in. So now you have a child and the mature adult self. And
Where are we, by the way?
Wherever you want to be. You can imagine your safe place or a place in the world. It could be indoors, outdoor, a place that you're comfortable in, an empowering place, a conflict-free place, a spiritual place, whatever works for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if the child is accepting the presence of the mature adult self.
Child is very thankful that the mature adult self is there.
Okay. So I'm assuming both of them are willing to have a little bit of interaction and supportiveness and connection.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that the mature adult self move as close as, as comfortable and whatever feels right to that child. And knowing that you have the negative core belief that that child has held, can your mature adult self speak to the child in a way that helps some resolution or attention or nurturant acknowledgement, and speak in a way that really nurtures that child, and see if that child can take that in, related to that negative core belief. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. Take your time.
It's a little tricky because the child we're dealing with is like 2 years old.
2 years old, got it.
Yeah.
So nonverbal communication will let us know if the child's uncomfortable or more comfortable.
No, she can talk.
She
So
can
it's
talk.
must be 3 years old.
3 years old. Okay. He grows up fast. Okay. So take your time and let me know when you've communicated. Okay, and how does the child feel about that?
The child loves it. Yeah. Actually, I think it's palpable. I can feel it.
Nice. In your tummy?
Yeah.
Good. So allow yourself to be mindful of that sensation in your tummy and how much the child loves it. And let the child bring in and like a little sponge, take in those gifts. And wherever the negative core beliefs are inside, let that energy that's coming in neutralize the negative core belief energy. And when that is done, then let me know.
Yeah.
Great. And how does the child feel?
The child feels like she's not alone.
And how does that feel to you?
It feels wonderful.
Nice. Nice. Is there anything else that you would request from the mature adult as the child right now?
Well, the child doesn't want the mature adult to leave.
Okay.
So there's an abandonment here.
Okay. And how does the mature adult respond to that statement of the child?
I mean, the logical statement would be, we are whole, we are one.
Does the mature adult acknowledge and want to support that connection moving forward in time?
Absolutely.
May I suggest that you find, or allow the mature adult to find a word or a sound or an image or a physical action, like putting your fingers together in a certain way, which represents this deep connection now with the child and the mature adult, that will serve as an anchor so that during the day, if the child needs anything, and you're aware of that, you can give yourself that signal, and then the connection between the mature adult and the child is right there. Does that feel right to you? So when you have that word or sound or action or combination or image,
I do. It's this.
fingers like that, beautiful.
Yeah.
So give yourself that signal, be aware of the connection between adult and child. And then go back, be aware of the signal and the feeling. Back and forth, back and forth. Ingrain it in all parts of you. Notice how the negative core belief is neutralized every time you give yourself that little connection? Yeah, very good. So make sure the connection is as strong as it needs to be, and when you are finished and you're like, yep, locked in, I got it, then just let me know.
Yeah.
Very good. Is there anything else that those two need to do before they go on with their day?
No.
Okay. So I want you to take some deep breaths, draw energy through your body. As you exhale, let go of anything that needs to be released. Find your way to full consciousness when you're ready. And open your eyes feeling very refreshed. Hope everyone. How do you feel?
I feel good. This was great.
Good.
I really, he didn't pay me to say this. I mean, this is like,
That's great. Any questions? And let's say thanks. Any questions for Gary? For me?
Seems to me, I'm wondering if you've had experience with hypnosis or going to trance before, because you seem to be very, to do it very easily, whereas sometimes I have to teach my clients for a while before they get there.
I have not been hypnotized before. I've never had that kind of, I've never had hypnotherapy. I've been in a lot of therapy before, and I've done a lot of EMDR before. And I've done a lot of work around negative core beliefs, so I'm very open and willing to get to a place where I can do some work, but it took a long time.
So can you, for example, kind of demonstrate a little bit what you would have done instead? If you get someone that's now frustrated, they're not doing this right either, I can't get there, I'm not finding the image, I'm not blah, 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 blah. That could go on for months.
Yeah, if you want to say Well, typically, as I work with clients to explore how good they are at going internal and being comfortable with that, and then using imagery and getting comfortable with that, and then the possibility of hypnotic use and suggestions, and to sniff around in those places and going to your safe place. And as they get really comfortable and I say, well, we've been doing this a lot, why don't you get yourself to your safe place and then just nod your head and then I'll chime in. And so I want them to take over more and more mastery of the process, which is what I tell my clients when they start. I want you to be your own therapist. So when I have that sense they've got that ability, then it makes it easier for me to kind of go to this type of thing. But not until, because this is a higher level of internal working, so I want to make sure we've got those skills, as well as any self-regulation abilities, containment, self-care.
So just segmenting it as needed.
Yes.
I would say if this was 6 years ago, I wouldn't have even been able to identify a safe place because I didn't feel safe at all about anything. So yeah, it's definitely a process. There's no way I could have done what I just did here.
Cool.
Back when.
That's good. Yeah. I often like to see if the person has the ability to be in the body, because we hold our emotions in our body. So the expression of them will be deeper if you are in the body while you're in touch with those feelings. And if you can't do that, I want to know that. But I want people to be able to do it and choose not to if they don't want to do it. So that's a piece of work outside of this immediate type of work. But I think if you can get to the goals in a way that feels right for the person, okay, who might decide that they're not in their body. So how we approach the work, what is the tone that we hold inside when we approach that work? What is the ethos and the sentiment of that work? And for me, when I get myself out of the way and I don't have the expectations, and I invite something else to come in and guide me, I often get answers or direction. And I will bring that right there in the moment to the client. And it feels like, if it's like I have a smorgasbord of all my skill sets, and I'm just going, okay, what needs to happen? And if I'm told that I need to take a little bit of EMDR and a little bit of breath work, okay. Or I need to put some essential oils in the auric field, okay. So I trust that. So I'll invite or make a motion or do whatever, and often it works quite well. I rarely have clients say, what are we doing? That doesn't work for me. So I appeal to what an artist might appeal to in terms of inspiration, or the muses that come and say, maybe this. And so I want to bring that into my work because it keeps it alive and it keeps it artistic.